Spring is here, my poodle and parrot pals, and so is hormonal season. So in today's video, we're going to talk about hormones. Hormones play an important role in the behavior and health of parrots. Parrots, like many other birds, are particularly sensitive to hormonal changes, which can impact their behavior, their mood, and their overall well-being. The more you encourage hormonal behavior, or you just simply don't understand it, the worse it can get. So it is really important as a parrot owner or a parent to understand hormones, why they happen, what happens, so that you can learn how to manage it and you can help your parrots through it. First, let's talk about what are hormones in parrots. Hormones are chemical messengers that help to regulate many different functions in the body, including growth, metabolism, and reproduction. In parrots, hormones are particularly important during breeding season, and that's when we, as parrot owners, need to be aware of it. During this time, they just want to follow their natural instincts and breed, and so that's where all the hormonal behavior and stuff comes in. Now you might be wondering, when do parrots get hormonal? Well, happy spring. 'Tis the season of hormones. But this can vary depending on the species and geographic location. In general, parrots breed during the spring and summer months in the northern hemisphere and during the fall and winter months in the southern hemisphere. This can vary depending on the climate and availability to food and the amount of daylight hours that they have or are exposed to. Many parrots get hormonal during the springtime because the weather gets warmer and there is more daylight. Typically, parrot owners will notice that their birds are hormonal during the spring, but it can happen during the fall as well. Hormonal behavior in parrots is also influenced by factors such as age, gender, and individual temperament. Female parrots may become hormonal as they prepare to lay eggs, while male parrots may become more hormonal as they seek out a mate. It's important to note that as a bird owner, it can be really challenging to deal with hormonal parrots. But that's why it's important for us to learn about it, and it's essential for us to provide our parrots with the right environment and care and diet so that we can help them manage their behavior. The first and probably most common mistake that people make with their parrots that triggers hormones is petting them in places that they shouldn't be stroked or pet or touched. So when you are handling or petting your parrot, you only want to be touching them on their head and their neck and nowhere else. You don't want to touch them on their belly. You don't want to pet their wings on their back. You don't want to pet them under the wings or anywhere else. When you're petting your parrot on the back, tail, under the wings, belly, basically anywhere other than their head, you are sexually stimulating them. And we don't want to do that. Now, husbandry is completely different from petting, and that's when you're at the vet or as yourself, if you're a professional and you know how to do this, you would hold your bird to check under their wings, to check their chest muscles and make sure that they're healthy and everything is a-okay. So that is completely different from petting, stroking, and showing affection to your bird. The next one is poor sleep quality, and sleep we talk about all the time. It's so important for birds to get 12 hours of dark, uninterrupted sleep time. And especially during this season, you want to make sure that they're getting 12, even 13 or 14 hours of that sleep time. Just like any of us, birds are going to be more cranky and more behavioral issues are going to show up when they're tired and not getting good quality sleep every night. Serving them warm, mushy food like sweet potato or some mashed bananas, anything that is warm and mushy, it's going to remind them of regurgitated food, and that is going to create a hormonal reaction. Now, during this season, your bird might be more affectionate and snuggly and cuddly. And although this may seem really cute, we can still show our birds love without over snuggling them or cuddling them too much by giving them those pets on their head and neck and giving them attention and all that kind of fun stuff. But we want to make sure that we're not over cuddling or giving them too much affection or affection in places where we shouldn't. Now this one is interesting, and remember, every bird is different, so not every bird is going to be triggered by this one, but some birds get triggered hormonally when you blow at them or you do a soft blowing on their face or their body or their wings, so you want to avoid blowing at them as well. Certain toys can cause overstimulation and hormonal behavior, and you want to avoid toys that are going to encourage nesting behavior, like cuddle huts and things like that. If you notice that your bird particularly likes a toy and is rubbing up on it, you want to remove that toy because that's causing a hormonal reaction or overstimulation. Sometimes, for some birds, as I said, every bird is different, their favorite person can be a trigger for them as well because they view that person as their mate. So that is another thing that needs to be worked on. Environment can also trigger these behaviors, such as changing up your bird's entire room or changing up their environment and putting them somewhere else from where they're used to, or a new pet or a new bird in your home. These kinds of changes can also trigger those hormones. Some birds can be more easily triggered than others. Every bird can escalate and come out of hormonal behavior differently. Sometimes you even need to stop an interaction with your bird if it gets really out of hand. And you need to understand that that's okay. If you need to stop the interaction, then you need to do that for yourself and for your bird. Knowing when to stop interactions or when to create distractions is going to be an important process in avoiding triggers. So now we know about parrot hormones. What are they, when they happen, what triggers them? But now let's talk about the most common behaviors so that you know when your bird is being hormonal. Probably the most common one and probably the least favorite is aggression or territorial behavior. Behavior that parrots exhibit when they're hormonal is aggressiveness or territorial behavior, possessiveness over their favorite human or bird companion. And when they're being aggressive and territorial, they might be nipping more, biting, lunging, dive bombing, and things like this. Now, sometimes when birds want to be petted, or if they're being petted, or they're just in the mood, then you might notice that they're rubbing their butts up against something. So if you notice that your parrot is kind of putting their head down and their butt up and rubbing up against objects or toys or you or just pretty much anything, then that is a hormonal behavior, and that's them trying to basically get some action. Sometimes you might even notice that your bird is beak rubbing. So they might be moving their beak like left to right or up and down. And that could be a hormonal behavior unless they have just eaten and they have like a dirty beak and they're trying to clean off their beak, then that's completely different. So context is important with a lot of behaviors with parrots. Next one is regurgitation. And this is when they bring up some food for you or for whoever. And this is a very bonding, mating experience that birds exhibit. So if they are regurgitating, then this is a hormonal behavior. With that, you might also notice that your bird becomes a lot more mouthy with your hands. So they're trying to get your fingers in their mouth or trying to get pet. And that may also be a signal that they're feeling hormonal and they really want to regurgitate for you. But context is important because, for example, Mia does something all year round where she comes over to my fingers when she wants to get scritches. So you need to understand your bird's behavior, and since you spend the most time with them, you're gonna get to know their personality and their little quirks and what they do on a regular basis versus what is hormonal. Hormonal parrots will also have increased vocalization, so they might be louder than usual, screaming more, squawking more. It's in their nature to naturally be loud. It's just that during this season, you might notice that they're louder more often. They may also become more active and more restless. They need to burn off more energy. And you might also notice an increase in appetite where they just want to eat more. And the last one is hormonal feather plucking. Now, this is something that's usually done by females, especially in the wild, because it's something they would naturally do to pluck the feathers and line the nest with these feathers. And usually you'll notice this on the belly and in between the legs, but not every parrot does this. And it's not very common. I've never noticed it with our birds. And some birds can also self-mutilate when they become sexually frustrated and stressed because they can't fulfill their desires and needs. So whenever you notice any kind of plucking, it's always a good idea to go check with your avian vet. Please remember that if your parrots are acting aggressive, territorial, screaming, make sure that you're reacting with understanding and not frustration and anger. I know it's easy to get frustrated or easy to get angry, but how must your bird feel? They're not able to fulfill a basic instinct. Females may also show an increased interest in cuttlebone or other calcium sources, as well as protein-rich foods like eggs. It is important to ensure that your birds are always getting enough calcium. And females may also start laying eggs, whether they've been fertilized or not. Egg laying is also a very sure sign of hormonal behavior. We want to make sure that we're never encouraging these hormonal behaviors or triggering them, because we are only sexually frustrating our birds and we can never fulfill them that way. And so we want to make sure that they're not feeling frustrated. And it's also extremely unfair and cruel to do that to them. So that's it for today, my poodle and parrot pals. I hope that this video helps you spring into the hormone season with your birds. And don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe for a good vibe. And we'll see you guys in the next video.